and welcome to this exclusive masterclass on the realities of managing a fund in India. In this case, a multi-cap fund. And with us, we have one of the top fund management teams in India, the Equity Brains Trust of SBI Mutual Fund. And they have evolved a very unique way of managing a fund. In this case, the multi-cap fund, because it's not just one fund manager who will be managing it, it is an entire team. So how is this going to really work out? We have with us R. Srinivasan, CIO of Equity, Ruchit Mehta, Head of Research and Auto Analyst, Sukanya Ghosh, Quant Research Analyst, Priyanka Dhingra, ESG Analyst, Saurabh Pant, Consumer Goods Analyst, and Nidhi Chawla, the Infrastructure Analyst. So thank you very much to all of you for joining in today. And let me start with the captain of the team. Vasan, why this fund? And, how is it going to be very different from all the others out there?
So, why this fund? Obviously, we are an asset management company. We are in the business of managing money. And there is this product gap. So, we're kind of filling up the shelf in a way. There's no particular reason why this fund is coming at this time. It's just, we're just filling up the product gap. In terms of, but having said that, in terms of the way we intend to do this fund, it's pretty unique in the sense that, so we take a lot of pride in the strength and the capability of our analyst team. You see some of them here. It's a much bigger team, a lot of them senior analysts. And we're going to manage this as the best ideas of the analyst team.
Okay.
So in that sense, I think it's a bit unique because what we are trying to do effectively is combine or optimize the capabilities of an individual, let's say me, because I'll be responsible for the portfolio management, the sizing, and the effective decision making, but the whole investment process and the idea generation comes from the team, and I'm kind of, I have to stick to that, and I'm happy about it. So I think that's a good thing to do.
Pitch to you and you decide what to take, or they come with the stock to you and you decide the allocation?
So we run a universe of like close to 366 stocks. Ruchit can connect me. There's maybe 10 stocks here and there. Now, when I say we cover this, it means that this is an active universe outside the passive universe that we also look at.
Sure.
And the active universe typically needs to have a recommendation. It needs to have a target price. It needs to have an earnings model. It needs to have updates, as in we're meeting the management, we're doing channel checks on these companies on a regular basis. That's a list of like 360 odd companies. Now, within that, we have close to, if I remember right, 80 odd buy recommendations. Okay. So buy is the higher conviction. I will pick from these ideas. So these are the best ideas of the analyst team. And I am also guided towards where they are more intense, as in what stocks they like more, because they'll be giving a rank to it. They'll have a confidence score. We have a range of target prices based on the probability of expectation. So it's something we've been doing actually for many years. So in that sense, the process itself is not novel for us because we've always been an analyst-centric house.
Sure.
It's just that the media showcases the portfolio manager all the time. But,
I can imagine that, everybody has a role to play. It's not just the one person.
Exactly.
I take that point.
Yeah. So there is so how do I put it? So there is a striker, but there is a midfielder who feeds the ball. There is a spiker, but there is a setter. And
now I think everybody in India has understood. Because whoever knows cricket has understood how this fund is going to be managed. So how did you come up with making this multi-cap unique in the way that, everybody has a voice in the fund management?
So this is something that we've been thinking about, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. We've been thinking about this for the last, say, 9 to 10 years. And we've been implementing and we've been putting our money where our mouth is in a real fund for the last 7 years, if not longer. So we are very hung up about the fact that, see, performance is important. What is important over a long period is that consistency of performance, right? And how do you ensure consistency of performance as a house? And what we've been trying to focus on as a house, for example, the investing philosophy, right? So we have a philosophy as a house, and we haven't been trying to do everything. For the last, let's say, I've been here since 2009. So that's been what, 12 years. So 10 out of these 12 years, we focused on stock selection. And we said, this is what we do best, this is what we'll focus on. And there is a philosophy for that stock selection. But now we are into lateral research. We are doing, Sukanya, for example, is involved in the quantitative model. She does a lot of lateral research. We have an asset allocation framework. So once we were sure that we have a framework, then we got into that, right? So one is to have a clear philosophy and say, this is what we do, and kind of fine tune it. Then work on the process. Because kya karna hai to pata hai. See, what is an perfect investing philosophy? The holy grail. Buy a strong business model, run by good guys, at reasonable valuations. ठीक है यार, सबको पता है. But how do you do it? So there is a process aspect of it, which involves idea generation, which Ruchit will probably explain it better, but about doing the grind, doing your channel checks, trying to figure and say that this is a good business, arguing, fighting over it, this is a good management. See, these things are something that you need to work on and spend a lot of time. So that's the investment process is the second angle. And the third and most important angle, which comes to your question, is about ensuring that, and we've always believed as a house. In fact, the analyst for us has always been more important than the portfolio manager, right? I don't want to disappoint the portfolio managers, but the point that I'm making is even the portfolio manager is an analyst. So when I say an analyst is more important, the analyst function is more important than the portfolio management function. Now, it's very important that you marry both. So the analyst, there is a lot of rigor and research into the analysis aspect, and the portfolio manager is an allocator, and he sizes up well. You want to combine the two. And we've spent a lot of time and effort, and to that effect, I think, and I would like to believe that, and I hope these guys agree, that we've kind of created a flat structure. So I'm really not the captain or the boss. I am, but it is administrative, it's painful. But functionally, there is a reverse accountability structure. So if I can't buy something that the analyst is, I can buy, but I have to justify because it is assumed that the analyst is right. So this is something that we've been working on as a team. And in a way, this is a part culmination of that process in the sense that we want to run it as a high conviction idea of the team.
Okay, so let me find out from the team what they think about it. Input, output, both being important is something that we can all appreciate. But Saurabh, fund management, hasn't it always just been about the fund manager?
So what Vasan said, right, in terms of the flat structure that we've created, I think what we truly believe is that it's not about the alpha male who can kind of do a better job in investment management. I think every individual is limited by their own circle of competence, and every individual have their own biases, styles. And I think what we aim to do with this fund is that hopefully, as a collective team, we are able to cancel out some of these biases and hopefully do a better job at investment management.
Okay. Ruchit, one way of looking at it is that, when somebody says it takes a village to raise a child, so therefore I can understand that, the importance of teamwork. On the other hand, the view is that, too many cooks spoil the broth. So is there a feeling that, too many people involved in the decision-making process, as is your, process now, might end up being detrimental?
Well, that's a very valid concern. And I think the way we want to look at it is, and let's take the cricketing analogy, right? So you have a team of 11 people on the field, but at the back end of it, to help those 11 people, you have a lot of people, whether it's a physiotherapist, or it's the water boy, or somebody who's just sitting and making sure that the clothes are ready, the bats are ready, and everything else. So here, when you think of it, it's like the portfolio manager is like the artist. He's been given a blank canvas. The analyst team represents the different sets of colors in the palette. Right, and the portfolio manager has to take that decision of how to build and construct the portfolio. So as all analysts individually, all of us really focus on the idea generation part of it. That what are the best stocks that can make money for the investor. Where the portfolio manager plays a role then is that, look, there has to be a certain amount of portfolio allocation to be made, sizing up the individual stocks, risk management, liquidity management, aspects like that. And as Saurabh said, I think this approach will effectively, in our expectation, cancel out individuals' biases, styles, and effectively make this a much more risk-tolerant fund than you would think that any single individual who's running a portfolio.
Okay, so
if I may, so that too many cooks spoiling the pie is one dish, right? So I think you think about, and like this analogy better, you think about it as a thali where individual, wo jo sabji hai, some individual is cooking in, who is an expert in that, and you get that, the best of that, and you're putting together all these different dishes in one thali. So thali is one.
So you have a specialized chef for everything.
So he is a consumer specialist. He knows consumer much better than anybody else. We recognize that, right? Ruchit is now the head of research, but Ruchit was an auto analyst, and Nidhi was an infrastructure analyst. Sukanya, for example, I don't even understand what she speaks most of the time. She's our quant analyst. I'm saying it in a very positive sense. She's our quant analyst, but she kind of maps the mind of the analyst into a framework, which is an objective framework, which kind of is into numbers. He's ESG. I'm just kind of getting used to that. So this comes together, and I think it gives you a better product.
So I can imagine that it comes together, but how many disagreements do you all have, and are you the one who decides eventually?
Actually, we promote. This is very funny. Actually, it's about it's a weird thing about investment management, where you are in the business of figuring out what is going to happen. Like you're predicting the future, which cannot be predicted, right? And typically, there are always positives and negatives. So cognitive dissonance is the order of the day. And how do you take a decision with that kind of a framework? That is an art in itself. So disagreements are encouraged. And that is what we do most of the time. We have these meetings where we fight. So there is the analyst who's negative on a stock. I like it. So wo apna argument deta hai. Then I have to present on it. And it's not like talking about a fact. It's not like saying this table is black or is it white. Like, wo to theek hai, it's a fact. We are discussing basically a range of probabilities and expectations which nobody is necessarily right on, and people are presenting arguments. I don't want to make this too complicated.
No, I get it. Yeah.
But it enhances the whole.
So basically, you've brought your, politest demeanor here. But if you were discussing a fund, there would be a lot of...
And it's a problem with all these girls. Ye zyada gaali deti hai. But I decide, yeah.
Okay. But why don't we see more of this? I mean, I can totally imagine that, the expert in that micro field being the decider of, the fate of that particular set of stocks would be the best way forward. But why isn't there more of it?
It's tough. So culturally, it's tough. Because you have to take out this angle where one guy decides and still there are so many people who are empowered at a lower level, and you got to make this work. Then there is this problem where, unfortunately, I mean, touch wood, these guys have been around for a very long time. How do you retain somebody who's done a sector for 15 years is getting job offers elsewhere? Ek to paise do, wo to theek hai. But more importantly, that is something we've been able to do. I think it's the culture, I think, effectively where, and I think these guys should say it, not me, where we actually believe that they are a very important part of this whole management process, and they play a direct role. They're not, see, typically analysts play an advisory role. Advisory role mein ownership nahi hota hai. How much ever when you may say that this is a stock that you should buy, but the moment you have to buy that stock and say put a significant amount, then that is ownership. We are doing that. It's tough to do it, if I may. The best guys of the industry, can they come together in one organization and run a portfolio? Theoretically, yes, but they have their own egos, I guess. So,
yeah.
So it's tough.
Vasan, I must say, I totally appreciate your brutal honesty, and I wish to see lots more of it. So this is lovely, the way, we have understood how things are working. Ruchit, do you want to run us through what is the investment process? Because, especially because of the way last year has ended, everybody wants to be a stock picker and naturally learn from the best. So what is the strategy that you all follow? What is your process?
So we basically have a 7-pillar process, right? It starts off with idea generation, where Sukanya and our team will run through a lot of screeners, a lot of quantitative models to sort of look at what kind of potential stock ideas are out there. Then it moves on to the stage of scuttlebutt, right, which is where we focus a lot of effort on doing a lot of channel checks on the ground, meeting people, and here we lay a lot of emphasis on this because this process itself can be a source of ideas, right? So you meet management of a competitor and that guy will give you feedback of a lot of other people on the ground, right? There have been times where we've been investigating one company, but we actually go out and buy into another company or their competitor as well, right? So this is also a fairly important part. Then we go to our financial analysis stage, and there we have a lot of in-house expertise built in it, including our own proprietary forensic framework. We also have a very detailed layer of ESG done on that, so Priyanka can give you a more update on that as well. Then every one of us writes a qualitative thesis, right, as to why do I like this company? Why do I want to own a part of this business? And it's not agnostic of valuation, but why do I want to own it, right? I mean, I have to make a case for the fact that, look, this is a great business. If it falls 50% tomorrow, I'd be happy to double up on my investment, right? So we have to have a very strong conviction at that angle. Then comes to the portfolio management part. Execution is after that. And then maintenance, where we also rely a lot of emphasis on maintenance that, look, it's not just you do all of this once and you're done with it, but you've got to keep doing this day in and day out. And that's, at some sense, also keeps you anchored to the investment. Your conviction stays alive. So I guess in some sense this is the way we kind of do things.
Analyst karta hai. So, and that has to get reflected in the portfolio eventually. And it's like a nice marriage, tough to implement, but
No,
and the good part is that all portfolio managers do it as well. So even Vasan does all of this for some of the companies that he's looking at specifically. So going to the flat hierarchy structure, all of us are analysts first in our
all
team.
portfolio managers are analysts. So there is no, he's a diversified portfolio manager, he's also an analyst.
No, absolutely. And your passive universe is what, 600 plus stocks, active universe is 360 odd, right? And then you have buy calls on 80. How does, how is the original idea generated, and then how does it get funneled down to, this compact portfolio that you'll have?
So as I said, we done a lot of quantitative tools to start with. So we have our own set of screeners, quant models that we run on a periodic basis, right? Every week we will run some of these screens or models, and we'll keep through. It's like a machine, right? It keeps saying, look, have a look at this idea. We have a best ideas portfolio discussion as well, where every analyst will keep pitching a stock that they like, once they've gone through that 7-layer approach and come out with a conviction on a particular stock. We will periodically do a lot of discussions, right? Those heated discussions happen every Thursday, wherein there are times we've been up till 9, 10 in the night discussing a particular stock for 4 or 5 hours, where everybody actually actively pitches in to find out that how do we build more conviction on a buy stock, or how do we look critically at a sell idea that's there. So it's a lot about ideas generation through our models, our screeners, a lot of focus on the ground research, and third is a lot about debate and discussion. So once we do that, we'll have this pool of ideas, and sometimes it can create a situation where you have too many ideas, right? And which is where I guess the role of the portfolio manager comes through. Restricting the portfolio to a limited number of stocks also makes sure that over a period of time, only the best ideas are in the portfolio, and you're constantly evaluating what's already in the portfolio, because somebody's always knocking the door that I want, this idea to be in this portfolio. So it's an iterative process and gives the best out of it.
Okay, so it seems like everything begins with you, Sukanya, and Vasan has piqued our interest about exactly what is it that you do. So can you tell us about what really is quantitative analysis, and how does it add value?
So quant research in general kind of brings a discipline into the whole investment process. And since it's all about data and data driven, it kind of eliminates all these behavioral biases that fund managers and analysts may have, and kind of helps to diversify investment styles. So what we have tried to do is we have tried to create a in-house quant model, which helps us to cover a wide range of stocks and kind of spot early signals, and also it's used by the research team to create stock ideas for them. So that's.
Okay, so this whole...
He does a lot more.
Okay, I guess you don't want to disclose everything, which is fine. But so this whole effort is basically to bring ownership behind each of these stock ideas, right? And not just to be running paper portfolios, right?
Exactly. So a paper portfolio is not really, it does not bring accountability in the true sense, right? So an analyst can recommend a stock and in a paper portfolio, but in a live portfolio, it's a totally different ball game. So exiting a really illiquid stock in a paper portfolio is very easy, but in real life, you'll have to think about liquidity, price. So in this fund, that's what we are trying to bring in. Bring true accountability where the analyst recommendations will be used in the live portfolio.
Yeah, this is exactly where a lot of careers would have ended, is trying to exit in liquid stocks. But Priyanka, now you're tracking ESG. That's another layer which has been added onto it, right? Realistically speaking, I mean, how does this layer of ESG work in fund management?
Sure. So we have an integration of the ESG layer across our equity universe. And what we try to do is we look at E, S, and G pillars and look at the material parameters. And when I say ESG parameters, they are not only extra financial parameters, they are parameters which have the potential to become financially material for a company. And we keep doing this analysis on all our active portfolios. And we have a very engagement-oriented approach. So we don't stop at analyzing the companies and giving it a score, but we also keep engaging. So those red flags that emerge from our analysis, we then talk to the companies. We also try to potentially help them in overcoming those challenges by improving their disclosures or practices, by doing landscape studies for them, and essentially to make our portfolios look better. And that's also a process which aids in this entire investment process, because there might be some risks which are currently not looking financial and the financial analysts have not caught on, but we do keep monitoring the entire universe for any controversies, any hidden risks that are not apparent right now and may impact the company in near or far future.
So this is basically doing the risk assessment of a company before everybody else has caught on to it.
Yes, absolutely. To preempt it and then do this risk assessment, it just adds to the layer of financial risks that we are anyway checking.
Okay. Saurabh, how difficult is it to reject a stock idea?
Yeah, actually, in the current market conditions, especially, with the IPO frenzy and crazy listing pops, I think the analyst is in a dilemma of sorts, to reject ideas. And, it's, as you said, it's kind of important to buy the right ideas and equally important to kind of, let go poor ones. And I think as a team, we do realize that, price value dislocation in the market, especially, on IPOs, is actually a norm rather than an exception. And I think being cognizant about that fact, we can, as analysts, control ourselves to kind of not get carried away with the short-term momentum, right? And also, I think it's about going back to basics. You go back to your investment framework, you go back to your core fundamentals, and back your research process, right? And have confidence on that. And at SBI Mutual, especially, we've not invested in many of these IPOs, either because the pricing was such that there was not enough value on the table, or fundamentally we did not find the business good enough. But yes, I mean, it's a tough. Tough thing to do in terms of, especially when, there is so much of euphoria around to reject ideas. And I think going back to Ruchit's point, and he talked about, debates and, and kind of debating for long. What tends to happen with that is that, greed and ego are two things which tend to kind of take out the rationality from decision making, right? You tend to make irrational decisions then, and in a way, when we are debating a lot about potential ideas, I think it takes away, those biases, those egos, and to some extent, hopefully, we'll be able to make more rational investment decisions.
Okay.
So we have a deliberate devil's advocate approach. Somebody will argue for the heck of it, though we ज़्यादा नहीं करो tips.
Yeah, so the voice in your head is actually 7 people around you. Okay, so how does this foray into international investing, how's that working out? What's the process you all follow over there? Because, there's already this huge universe of stocks here, and then you just multiply that tenfold. How do you do it?
So the investment process is very similar. It's very similar to what we've been following domestically. Now, I think there are 2 reasons why we started looking outside India. And the first one being that we are relative return investors, and effectively that means that we should potentially look at new ideas and find ideas which can outperform our current investments, right? So that is something which is an ongoing process. In a way, we refine our coverage universe, and hopefully, if we do that well enough, we can